Hi, in this video we will learn how to create threads. Basically, there are two ways of creating a thread. One is by implementing a runnable interface, and the second is by extending a thread class. Before doing that, we have to follow some basic process, some basic steps to execute a thread. First, write a class and extend the thread class to it or implement a runnable interface. Second step is to override a run method. So what are the code which resides in the run method will be executed as a separate thread. Basically, run is there in both thread and runnable interface. But if we implement runnable interface, it would be an abstract method. So definitely we need to provide an implementation. And in a thread class, there is also a run method. But it says that it doesn't provide any implementation to it. So it does nothing. But in our code, we need to do something. That's why we override the run method in the thread class and provide some implementation to it. Third step is to create the object of a class. So when this object is created, then we call a start method, which is the fourth step and last step. When we call a start method on that object, it internally delegates a call to the overridden run method, and that's how our code gets executed. So based upon these steps, let's do a small example. Let's create a small application. I'll create a new class. I'll call it as thread example. I'll take the main method, finish. Here's the template which I received. I'll just format it. Okay. The first step says that we need to create a class, any class. So I'll call it as print thread, and I will use one of the methods to create a thread. I'll take the first one. I'll implement this class with runnable. Fine. Now coming to the second step, it says we need to override a method called run, and runnable is an interface, so they have abstract methods, so we must provide the implementation for the run. Let's implement the run method. I'll add a small logic wherein it prints 10 numbers onto the console. So print I equal to 0, I less than 10, I plus plus. Fine. I'll print onto the console also number I. Very small logic. It just prints 10 numbers. Now first two steps are over. Coming to the third step, it says we need to create an object of the print thread, the thread class, our thread class. So we'll create print thread. Done. Before going any further, I would just like to explain some of the constructors in a thread class. Let's see what all those constructors are. Usually there are so many constructors in the thread class, but we are very much concerned about few of them. Here there are four constructors which are mostly used. The first one is the no argument constructor. Second is it takes runnable as a parameter. Third one takes runnable and the name of thread as a parameter, and fourth one just takes the name of a thread. And for our example, we will use the second constructor, which takes runnable as a parameter. It is more suitable. We can even use the third one, but second one is more suitable and very easy. Let's go back to the example. We will just consider the second constructor here. So I'll say thread equal to new thread. Okay, I'll pass here runnable. And just for clarity's sake, I will change this reference variable to runnable. Okay, and I'll pass this runnable over here. Fine, the first three steps are over. Now coming to the last step, it says to call a start method on the thread object. So on the thread object, we will call the start method. Fine, that's it. All the steps are over. And just for clarity's sake, I'll print some statements using runnable, and the end of main. There is a purpose behind this statement. I'll tell you. Now let's execute this. So as per the output, it says first the main thread will execute the runnable, by using runnable statement. So it just prints it. But this statement is printed by the main thread, and even the second method, second statement. And the main thread will spawn a new thread internally by calling the thread.start. It creates the object, it calls the thread.start method, and the main will execute the end of main and dies. But still, the child thread, which has been spawned by the main thread, will execute. So the main thread will die, and after that, child thread will continue its task. So it will execute the run method. So it will print right from 0 to 10 and then dies. So this is how runnable is implemented. Now if we take the second way of creating a threads, we will extend the thread to our class. Run won't change. Run will be same as it was there in the runnable. So it won't change. The implementation of the run won't change. Just there are some small changes in the main method. So I'll change this runnable to thread, and I'll delete this one because we are not using any runnable thing, and create this one also. Fine. I'll change this reference to third object just for clarity's sake. Okay. See, print thread itself extends the thread, so we don't need any target, we don't need any runnable. So directly we can invoke the start method on this object. Start. That's it. It's same as the previous one, just small changes. Let's execute this. See, it's changed. So it says the same thing as it was there in the runnable. The main executes the using thread statement and spawns a thread, and then executes the end of main statement. Then the new thread will execute these statements. So it will execute the run method and it prints all the numbers onto the console. And this is how runnable and thread are used to create the threads. That's it. Thank you.